right, and we're back for another episode. And joining me today, Shannon Clark and the Sugar. How's it going?
Yeah,
Good.
good.
Hope you're doing well.
Awesome. For starters, for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourselves and where you guys come from.
So we are a family band. We are from Greenville, Ohio, which is a small rural community in the Darke County. And it's actually the birthplace of Annie Oakley. I always say that because everyone knows Annie Oakley. So this is where she was born. That's like our claim to fame. And in the band we have my wife Brittany on drums, percussion, and my daughter on vocals and lots of other instruments, piano and acoustic guitar, and then I kind of play a little bit of everything as well. And that's kind of our three. And we usually have a couple other guys in the band that back us up with bass, and sometimes we have a cello player that sits in with us. He's kind of an unofficial family member. So
yeah, we've adopted him.
We've adopted him.
Sure.
His name's Mike. His name's Michael Ronstadt. So
Awesome.
That's kind of the group. That's the dynamic. So.
Awesome. And for someone who's maybe never heard your music before, how would you describe your sound?
That's always the tricky part.
Well, we definitely are in that Americana range. We touch on. There's actually a magazine one time that quoted it kind of nicely. They said it weaved in and out of the lines of Americana, soul, and alt country music, kind of in and out of that realm. Some of the songs are a little different than others, but that's kind of our realm. So like influences for us, like I'm a big Jason Isbell fan. I love John Prine. I also love Jack White. Navy's into, you love Dolly Parton and all kinds of things. Emmylou Harris. So, there's a lot of dynamic sounds, but I guess that'd be the best way to describe us, singer-songwriters.
Yeah.
Alt country, Americana. Yeah.
Perfect. Love it. Awesome. All right. I'm getting deep right off the hop here. I was reading your guys' story, which I found unreal. You guys write your music and it's all about like your personal loss, struggles, the human condition. And you guys had, a family loss, which was your daughter. You guys were set to go on tour and then you had the loss of your daughter. So I don't know if you're okay with talking about it, if you want to explain a little bit about that.
Yeah. I was pregnant. And so I think you had another drummer filling in for me. And she was about 2 weeks old when she passed away, and like everything just came to a complete stop. And so we really did stop playing music, I would say overall for several years. And it really wasn't until Navy started showing an interest with singing and stuff, and that kind of got us, motivated again back into it. But so that was like a very, very much needed pause, just to kind of resituate our life and
reflect
and reaffirm our priorities, I guess. So, it has given clarity to our life now, and to songwriting and to the music, why we play music and why it's important to be a family band, spending time with our family. So, it was some good things can come out of really bad, horrible things. And so I think this is one of those silver lining moments that we can do this now.
Right. Yeah. And you guys found like writing was kind of like the tool to kind of heal things. And
I think at first it was hard to write anything because it was so hard to put those kind of feelings on paper and do them justice. And so it was several years. I stopped writing and just to process it. And then when the kids started coming up, we were still kind of, music was still a thing around the home. And so I wrote a song called Carry Me about 2 or 3 years after that incident. And that was the song that kind of helped us heal a little bit and get back into what we were doing. Yeah. So we took a long breather, but we're back now, and we love it. We realized that when you took music out of our lives, it was a good time to reflect, but there was still something missing. I think once we reconnected that, I miss doing this with, as a family. And then Navy was coming up and getting older and more curious, and she's so talented. Naturally, her voice is just beautiful, and she's worked really hard at doing, being able to fill in instruments in the band. A lot of the guys that play with us are A-list players that are seasoned. So for her to come in at a young age and be able to like hold her own, I think is really important. And I think a lot of that family combination, even though it's hard to work as a family, has brought us closer. And our two smallest kids, they don't play in our band yet, but we always welcome them, and they're always welcome to come up and do a tambourine or sing something if they want. Sometimes they'll get the nerve to do that, but yeah. So yeah. Anyways.
All right. Awesome. And okay. Yeah, I'll get that out of the way, the deep stuff, you know. But yeah, so sorry for the loss, and it yeah, when I was reading that, I just couldn't believe it. So I'm glad you guys are back and doing what you love, and so that's good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So all right, let's chat about your music. Marks on the Wall. Tell us about this album and how it all came together.
I'll let you take that one.
Okay, so well, we knew we wanted to work with a producer. We had never worked with anybody of clout like Mark Howard. Mark Howard has produced this record, and for those who don't know Mark Howard, he is a Canadian. So if you're from Canada, you probably may know him. He's worked on Tragically Hip album. He won a Grammy. I think he Juno Award for that. He's worked with Bob Dylan and Neil Young, a bunch of other great people. Emmylou, yeah. And so there was 3 producers I think we wanted to work with, and I sent emails to them, and I was kind of like, I didn't know what to expect, you know, like, because some producers don't work with just anyone. They want to work with only acts that they like, and so it's hard to get even in front of those people. And so in 24 hours, we had all three producers that we wanted were willing to work with us. And I had only sent the demo of Marks on the Wall, which is a song on our record, and I sent one other song called The Burden, and they loved them. So then we had to pick, like, well, who do you pick? So we had a couple other producers that were equally as good as, you know, Mark in the realm of their quality. But we just chose Mark because after a phone conversation with him, it just felt really solid. And so I sent him, this was kind of interesting. So the timeline, we were thinking like 6 months down the road. Well, Mark was pretty busy, and he only had like a short window in October. He's like, I got like 3 weeks here I can give you, and then I'm going to be busy till next year. So we were like, okay, well, we don't want to miss the opportunity. So we had to finish the album. We only had about 5 songs done that we had written. Everything else was just kind of like half pieces of things. And we basically had I had 1 month collectively. Brittany and I wrote some of the album together. And so we had about a month to write. He wanted 20 songs total to demo. So we had to have 20 songs. We had to write 15 songs in about a month, which was the most stressful thing I've ever had to do.
It was so fun looking back. It wasn't fun in the moment, but like now looking back, I'm like, yeah, that was great. But
well, I took the month off. I came out in my studio, and we started with the song that we, you know, maybe something I had started working on, and we just talked about it and worked through it. And some really great stuff. You know, it's funny putting yourself under that pressure. Yeah. I already had a few of my favorite songs on the record, like Marks on the Wall and The Burden. Those were already done. Red River was pretty much done. But there were a few that, you know, that came out of the sessions, like Blank was a song that came out about Alzheimer's. That was one that just kind of came out of us.
1,000 times you wrote in the studio.
1,000 times I wrote in the studio. Houses was something we wrote in, you know, a few weeks before. So it just, you know, all these really cool songs just came out of nowhere. And, you know, with Mark's energy, the songs are just very cool because we did them in a live setting. We sat around, we flew in a bass player by the name and guitar player named Michael Chavez from LA, who's worked with Mark closely. We kind of brought him in as a utility guy. So we just sat in the studio with us 3 and him, and we just worked up the songs with Mark. And we just took this song that was just a very shell of a song and just created this great thing. And we did live vocal takes while we were recording. So most of the vocals you hear are what we did in the studio. There was like no overdubs. There was no going back and making everything perfect. It was just on the spot. So the emotion and the raw energy of the performances, I think, is there. And I love that because I've always loved albums where I feel like I don't like stuff that's cookie cutter where it's like everything's perfect. I'm like, you know, I know you didn't do that in one take. You sat there and you did little pieces, and that's cool too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but we just, we love doing it this way. And so that's kind of how the album came about. And we chose the title Marks on the Wall because that song is my personal favorite song on the record.
I feel like that's why Mark wanted to work with us. That song was kind of the reason we had the opportunity.
And it paints a really good picture of when I play live shows on that song. I always tell people, hey, if you have loved ones, the grandparents, or your parents are getting older and you're an older person and you're not spending time with them, like, you need to do that now while you still can. A lot of older people get overlooked, and I think they, no one say they always get mistreated, but they tend to be looked down on, like they're an inconvenience. American people, I don't feel like we give the respect. Like in Japanese culture, it's very important to treat elders with respect. And it's like here we kind of like, oh, you're old, you don't know what you're talking about, you're not useful anymore. And it's like, I felt like I didn't spend enough time with my grandmother before she passed away. And so that song came out of that. And it's a very personal song. Anyways, that was a song that kind of got us to work with Mark. So that was awesome. So
I feel that way.
And you have to just tell me to shut up because I talk.
No, just talk. I'm like giving you the floor here. Do you two have a certain favorite song on the album?
You know what? Marks on the Wall is probably the most important song to me, but to listen to, I like 1,000 times. I feel like I could listen to that literally 1,000 times. There you go. Pun intended, I guess.
What's yours?
But yeah,
1,000 times. I mean, it's just got such a great groove.
Yeah.
Houses too. They're both really great.
I'm just, I feel biased because I'm so proud of it.
Grumpy Son. You like Grumpy Son?
I do like Grumpy Son. That's a good one.
And I think Mark really, he figured out where we were uncomfortable as musicians, and he just put his finger on it and pushed that out. And like, okay, so he knew, he could just tell where we lacked or what we were nervous with, and he forced it out of us, and it was like very cleansing in a way. And
some of the songs, like we would have never probably recorded them that way if we didn't have him there, because there was just so many things that are very true to, like, if you listen, Daniel Lanois was, and Mark worked together for a very long time, and so a lot of what Mark does is very Daniel, and so you'll hear things on the record that remind you of something that Daniel would do because Mark had done it for years with him. And so you'll hear things that kind of come out, and that's stuff that I love as a musician, but never knew how to do that stuff. And so Mark pushed some of those things out of us, the way we structured songs, the drum beats.
Yeah.
It
was fascinating to watch him work with us. It was kind of surreal because I'm like, and in a way, he's kind of like a hero of mine because of his resume and my favorite people that I've ever heard of, he's worked with. And so here I am sitting in a studio with Mark Howard, which was.
But don't tell him that. I want him to think
he could never know. He thinks he's that cool.
I think he knows he's cool.
I think he knows he's
Do you have a favorite moment in the studio with him?
Okay, so it was so weird. We were recording Grumpy Son, and I'm just sitting along playing my drum beat, and we're recording, but he's just walking around. He does this a lot. He just kind of walks around while we're recording and like listens, and he's got these ideas. You can see the wheels turning in his head. And he goes and finds this old fire extinguisher. It had to be from the 70s.
Oh,
I don't even
context real quick. We recorded this in an old farmhouse.
Okay.
In our hometown, we rented a farmhouse out in the country, and we just turned it into the house into a studio.
Yes.
So there were things in the house that were like part of the rental that
crap.
It wasn't our home. It was a rental.
Yeah. So he's walking around, and I see him grab this fire extinguisher, but I'm trying to play like thinking.
Like one from like the 1950s.
Yeah,
like
it's old. It should be taken off of. Yeah, it should be retired.
It didn't work.
And then he's just kind of like walking around, and he finds a hammer somewhere, and he brings it to me, and I'm like, what the hell is he trying to get me to do? And so if you hear Grumpy Son, there's like a ping noise. That's me hitting this fire extinguisher with a hammer. Like instead of a snare, which I'm like, I would never in a million years thought to grab this. But he just walks around the studio, and I'm like, it was just the funniest thing. Mid-song, he hands it to me, he puts it on my snare and hands me the hammer, and he's just like, gives me this look, and I'm like, I think I'm supposed to hit this, right? So I start, and then it sounded amazing, and we started the song over, and anyway, so that song really got to life with him just kind of walking around, looking at junk at at the house. And anyway, that's probably my favorite like moment during recording. It was just so bizarre, and it came out like a really awesome song thanks to that. So
amazing. Awesome. And tell me more about the whole barn thing, because or farmhouse, because that's I did something similar like that with an artist, and I think it's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at Mark has a book called Listen Up. He has a new one coming out too, but in that book, he goes through like places he's recorded through his career, and almost 95% of the places he's recorded made great records that were Grammy winning. Were always done in a house or a barn or an odd place,
like a mobile studio.
Tom Waits' album was recorded in an old schoolhouse. Like there, like he likes to do that because it brings the creativity out. It's comfortable. So we had a friend of ours who's a realtor in town. She owned this home. She bought it to flip it, and she hadn't sold it yet. She had it completely furnished, and so I asked her if I could, rent it for a couple of weeks, and she said, yeah. So it was just an old farmhouse built in like the 1870s, 60s or 70s. And it was out on like a 40-acre farm with the horse barns. And we actually, ironically, we were going to set up in the house. It didn't work out. That Mark did not like the way the walls were shaped and stuff in there. So we actually went he had a 2.5 car garage. A heated garage that was attached to the house. So we went out and got all these carpets and drapery. He brought all these tapestries,
lights,
and we did different lighting. We did like red and blue lights inside, and we just turned the whole garage into this studio.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a garage.
So we took the couch from the house and set it in the center around Mark, so we could sit there, and then we just had everybody in a circle. And I don't know how he did it, without getting too much bleed, but he did a really good job of keeping things pretty separate. And it was really neat. And I felt like it was my favorite recording sessions I've ever done, because I didn't feel like it was a lot of pressure. We had all day to do we usually try to track 2 songs a day. And it was just a fun environment, positive energy, and
you just hang out afterwards. We just eat and drink and just
hang out. It was like
it was
just like it was like a family just hanging out and playing music. And you had, of course, Mark had all these great stories, and Michael Chavez, the bass guy, he had all these great stories because he's worked with, he's toured with John Mayer and Hillary Duff and all these crazy famous people, and so he's got these funny stories about things. And so, and they never made you feel, never felt inferior, or Mark doesn't make you, he's not like, he doesn't care if you're good as player as somebody else, as long as you're giving him the best you can give him. And I think that's important, because everyone has different levels. Obviously, I'm not a John Mayer guitar player. Not many people are. So you give him what you're going to give him. That's because you're making your art, and I think that's important. And Mark did a great job with making you feel comfortable. And we still talk. Mark, he's not the kind of guy that takes your money and run. He genuinely is invested in the project, and he cares about like what it's doing. And he's just all around great experience. Though I highly recommend, if you can get a chance to work with Mark. He's a one in a million. I think his practices are still kind of old school, so he records to digital tape, and he uses his own preamps that he makes that are very old school sounding. He uses old vintage mics. Nothing's really new. So the album also has a very dark tone. It's not that crisp digital sound that you're used to nowadays. It's got a very old. Actually, we listen to some of the songs on the record. People think that they're old songs, that they've never been released or something. What did you record this? Like, this is from the 70s or 80s? No, but I love that. Those records are great. Lucinda Williams, No More Tears. Mark did that song in the 90s, I think, that record. Or maybe early 2000s. But, Fruits of My Labor is one of the most beautiful songs. Amazing. Sonically. If you listen to it on headphones, it's so beautiful. And he just has a great way of capturing that sound. Anyways, that's my
love it. No, that's awesome. And did you guys shoot some videos out there as well during the whole thing?
I do have a few little clips of stuff that we haven't ever released yet, but I've got our song Last Morning. We actually recorded that one live. We got it on the first take, and I actually have the video of that. Michael Chavez actually recorded it because it was just a solo thing that me and her did. So he recorded the whole performance that we tracked, which was cool. And the lighting in there is weird because we did half the room was red lights, LED, and half the room was purple, or I mean blue, and so
it made
everything
in the middle.
looked like a light purple in there. It was really, it was kind of like a really like a sleazy strip club lighting. So
I guess so.
without, not that I would know that. I've never done that.
Yeah. Awesome. So you guys have some lyric videos up, also a music video. Are we expecting more music videos with the other songs that you have?
For sure.
Yeah, we're trying to shoot one more at some point in the next few weeks. We're trying to finish it up. We've got it about half done, so we'll be releasing one more music video at some point, probably in the fall.
Okay.
Yeah, called we're gonna do one called The Burden. It's off the song The Burden.
Awesome.
And it's not a single for us. We just really liked the song and we wanted to do a video for it because I had a really cool idea for the video. So, well, we had, not me, I guess.
It's collective.
I say me a lot. Sorry.
All good. Perfect. And what would you say has been the best advice you guys have been given in your careers so far?
To just never stop.
Yeah.
Never stop, honestly. Because if you look at it from a logical standpoint or a financial standpoint, half the time it doesn't really make sense for people to put yourself out there and like let everybody judge you, and then 99% of the people can't stand it or that just don't relate to it. But to just keep going, like it really is important. And I think the more you do it, the more people you'll find that can relate to it. And sometimes just having that one person say that they loved it or they appreciated it or something that can sustain an artist for months or a year, you know.
Sure.
So I would say that's just keep doing it. Don't stop.
But you?
I think not so much advice as much as a compliment, I guess. But you always tell me that when I finally get to the point where I have my voice, you know, like get more experience and I kind of know my sound, it's just going to be better. And I'm like, hoping that I can still be part of this and we'll still be doing that then. And it's not so much advice, but kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I think, along with what Brittany said, for me, I've had people say that you just have, you know, the music industry is very, very competitive. It's probably one of the most competitive fields next to acting. I mean, that you can be in, maybe even harder. To break through to a point where you can financially sustain just off of your music is not easy. And someone told me one time it's a long game. You know, that's why people are in the music business for 30 or 40 years. And maybe it might not be, you know, John Prine didn't win a Grammy until his last album before he died. I mean, he was in the business his whole life, never won anything. You know, Glenn Hansard, who I love, he's been since he was 17. He's 50 something now, or almost 50. And he still never won a Grammy. He's been nominated, but never won. So, I mean, these are guys that are like, to me, are heroes, still never won. So it's a long game. And I think you have to find your people because there's always a place for your music with some people. Now, you may never, I mean, I may never write the music that's popular enough to be here. But if you find those people that really appreciate what you're doing, and you have to have a tough shell because I feel like the critics, the bloggers, and there's a lot of people out there. You send 100 things out to somebody, and 98 of them say you're crap or they don't want to use you. And then the two people like you, Codi, you took a chance in interviewing us. You said, "I like these guys. I want to interview them." Yeah. I might have had 90 rejections before you, but it's that one person that takes the time to spend with us or to acknowledge that they really enjoy what we're doing. That really makes an artist, like that's what we live for. If I get one person that says, "Hey, I want to give you my time because I think what you're doing is special," that's all you need, you know, because eventually you could be the guy that says, "I told you this band was good." You know, maybe if we ever get anywhere, you know, you'd be like, "Oh, this band's good." I mean, we've done a lot of cool things and we've toured. Actually, I'm just saying, like, you know, most people don't know who we are. We have a small select fan base that knows who we are, but you know, I don't walk into Walmart and people don't ask for my autograph or anything.
Fair enough.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's right. That's right.
You guys have Walmarts up there?
We do. Yeah.
Isn't that awful?
You know,
It's what it is.
It is what it is.
it is. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Any shows lined up that people can look forward to?
Yeah, we have a couple. I mean, we're playing regionally here. We just finished. We did like a 3-state tour, and we're going to be playing mainly in Ohio in August and September, and then November, December, January, we're going to start getting out. We're going to take a longer trip out the first of the year out west after things kind of with COVID a little bit, hopefully softer by then. And we'll be doing like a 3-week tour out from Ohio all the way out to Texas and kind of through the states up and around. So we'll probably hit anything below where it stays warm because it's cold here. So we'll probably go where it's warm and kind of hit that. So
Perfect.
good opportunity to check us. You can check out ShannonClarkTheSugar.com. Check for updates. We'll have our tour dates on there, tickets, links, and all that stuff.
Awesome. All right. Then what else is next for Shannon Clark and the Sugar?
We're already starting. So we really don't ever stop. Like we're already starting a new album, or getting ready for one. I feel like this one just dropped this week, and we're already writing more songs. So which is making
What
plans.
artists do.
Yeah.
We went down to Nashville back in June,
Last month,
and we recorded a demo song with a producer named Justin Weaver. He's worked. He's kind of a all kind of. I mean, he's like the guy they hire into the studio when they can't figure out exactly what a song needs, and he's Winona Judd's guitar player, and he's toured with like the Dixie Chicks and all these really amazing country acts. Super nice person, and we loved working with him. We had a great time. We recorded a new song called Jackie Loves Me, and that's going to be, it won't be out probably for 3 or 4 months, but that's probably going to be off our new record. And I think we're leaning toward, I think we're going to record our next record with him. Possibly we'd like to try to maybe a different avenue, maybe a little more roots oriented. So
Okay.
we might go down that road. So that's kind of where we're at right now, just working on that and trying to get this album out in people's hands. That's always a challenge when there's 40,000 people that release music every day,
Yep. For sure. All right. You said your website already. Where can people find you on social media? Just Shannon Clark and the Sugar?
Yeah, you can Google that, or SC Sugar Music is Instagram. Shannon Clark Sugar is our Facebook. Just Google Shannon Clark and Sugar. You'll see YouTube videos. Yeah, if you can follow us, that'd be great. We post a lot of fun things on there. Sometimes we give away free CDs. You never know what we're doing. Always kind of doing some kind of crazy thing. So, and I know everybody says to follow them, but it really does help musicians when people pay attention.
Yep.
So you don't want no one wants to play to an empty room, Cody.
That's right. I agree. All right, guys, go grab marks on the wall, and all three of you, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Then let's stay in touch, and we'll talk soon.
Okay,
Awesome.
sounds good.
All right, have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too.
See you.